So this is not our normal setup for our podcast, and it's also not our normal episode where I talk to one of our clients. This one is actually special because we have a special guest in town, Marlene McCallum from Most Powerful Life. She is actually my exec coach who I've been working with for the past 6 months, 8 months?
Yeah, I think it's 8.
Yeah. And I just thought this was a good opportunity to talk about coaching, kind of the impact it's had on me, and maybe the impact it's had on you, and some inspiration. I did an interview with like the Southeast Asian publication a few months ago, and it was my second time doing the interview with them. And I did it once a few years ago. They re-interviewed me, and then at the end, I mentioned something about having an exec coach. And they stopped the tape, and they said that they had hundreds of people that they've interviewed. Nobody had ever had an exec coach, and
Wow.
and then we started talking about that. So you unknowingly hijacked that interview, and but they were really interested that I had one, and started asking more and more questions about it. And for me, in leadership and growing company, I always say there's no CEO school. There's no on-the-job training for this. You learn somewhat on the job, especially in entrepreneurship and startup world. But I have found that latching on to mentors and advisors and coaches has really helped us grow. And a concept that I came across in the past couple of weeks is a leadership lid. There's a certain capacity for leadership that each person has, and the organization can't go further than that leader's lid.
That lid, yeah.
And so one way to raise the lid is in coaching and mentorship and having an advisor. So just wanted to pick your brain on your path to this point and how you got into it.
Well, I like that you said hopefully there's something in it for you, and I think that's really true for coaches. Is we have the sweetest gig because not only do we support our clients, not only do I get to support you, but I learn so much from your industry, from your business, but also from your perspectives. And so it's very safe and fair to say that that you have an impact on me. And I think most coaches would probably call it a partnership. Mm-hmm. So it's more here than it is here. Than one person being above the other. It's really a partnership. So my journey to get here, well, it started with a 3.5-day course. And it was a personal growth and development course, kind of not very specific. You were just going to go in and you were going to have some breakthrough in your life. And so it's kind of nebulous, but also exciting. And the person who was running it, so there were 200 of us sitting in rows, and then there was one person facilitating the event, and he called himself a coach. So it's about 20 years ago, and I'd never heard of a coach or coaching. I was a psychology graduate. It's kind of similar, but coaching was pretty new. So the way he described himself was, I'm a coach, and throughout this process, I'm going to ask you to try on different things. And none of them you have to keep. But literally, it's like going to a dressing room, and you can just try on being a leader or being bold, being courageous. He just started to give us all these different things to try on. And I thought this is a really amazing concept, very different than psychology, where it was more about assessments and telling people who they were. Mm. You're this way, you're that way, this is the trajectory you can be on based on how you are. It was all very fixed. And so my first experience of coaching was that it wasn't, that perhaps human beings weren't very fixed, that we could change and try on different things and different ways of being. So in that class, they asked me to try on leader, which was very different. So here I am in this course, and I'm actually in the back row, hoping nobody will call on me, right? Like this, would never even get up or dream of getting up and speaking at the microphone. And yet, when somebody gave me the opportunity to try on this other way of being, even though it made me nervous, it gave me a pathway to really do something outside my comfort zone. And we didn't, there was no talk about comfort zones. That's a very popular term right now. But next thing I knew, I was up at the mic and I was trembling a little bit, but I did it. And so for me, what that drove home was that significant change can happen for people in short periods of time. And so that's really when I moved away from psychology and moved more toward coaching. I wanted to be a part of that. I wanted to give people access to
that experience.
Quick shifts.
Yeah. So that is like perfect segue into what I wanted to talk to you about. And my experience with working with an exec coach and working with you is that it's not like you need to do a full 180 in anything. It seems to be like these small tweaks in the way you think of something or the way you process something having big impacts. And so the way that I've been thinking of it in my mind is like these micro learnings with macro or big time impacts. So one for me was very early on in our work together where you said, don't think of things you have to do, think of it as you get to do that. So for me, getting to do some of the things that I don't like to do, like finance or accounting or changing a diaper, it's like I get to do that. It's a privilege and an honor, and I'm trusted to do that versus I have to wake up at 3 a.m. and do that.
Yeah.
So that was a small learning that had a big shift on my thinking, but what's one that you had, maybe that you learned yourself?
I think the biggest revolutionary thing for me that maybe started out as a seed and grew into something bigger, like what you're talking about, was the distinction between a victim and responsibility. And so it's like what you said, sometimes somebody gives you something or shows you something, it seems so small and simple, but then it sits with you and you're like, oh, I see. So I had this epiphany when somebody made the distinction. Okay, so when you're being a victim, it's like the world is happening to you. You have no say. It's just you're a recipient of the world's offerings. And then, being responsible is looking from the perspective like, how did I cause this? Even if it's something that you wouldn't necessarily think is inside your realm.
Right.
So like, I'm trying to think of an example. So somebody who's been in successive poor business relationships, right? So the victim would say, I don't know, I just keep meeting the wrong people. People are, really difficult. It's all out there, right? It's all on other people. And from responsibility, say, well, who am I? Where am I hanging out? What am I doing that has this keep showing up in my life? And for me, that was revolutionary, because what I saw in that moment was that I was the common denominator in all of my things that went well and didn't go well. And so just that shift really changed the trajectory of my life.
Wow. So the shift from being victim to taking ownership.
Yes.
Okay.
From being
Gotcha.
victim to taking ownership.
Yeah, that's good. I'll tell you one like surprising thing that I've learned about you. I want to hear one thing from you as well. But when I hired you and we started working together, I had no idea that you were raw food vegan, had this like crazy, not crazy.
It's okay. It's crazy. It's all right.
Like very strict diet and lifestyle. And, I didn't expect for us to bond on that level too, of like you helped me through like making tweaks and on that front and just thinking more consciously about like what I put in my body and eat and consume.
Oh, yay. I'm so happy.
Yeah, and that's something I really did not expect to learn or think about. But what's one, because I know you've said like you learn things from each one of your clients. So it doesn't have to be me, but just something that you've learned from one of your clients.
Oh, gosh. It can be you, though, right?
It can be, yeah.
Okay. That's a really, it falls into two camps. So one is I learned about industries or hobbies. So I have a client who I know more about golf now than I was ever meant to know.
And that wasn't me.
And it wasn't you, but it could be.
Yeah, yeah.
But then there are also, sometimes I'll say to myself, like if I'm in a difficult situation or something that I'm finding challenging, right? Because the things that scare me probably don't scare you and vice versa.
Yeah.
So, if I'm in a situation where I feel nervous or, I might say, well, what would Joel do? How would Joel relate to this? And so it's really, right, like it's a boost of, you get to draw on this resource, like who you know that person to be. So, courageous or not afraid to talk or share, or just speak off the cuff, like this, for example. My clients are a source of inspiration for me. And I don't know if this answers the question, but one of the other things is there's a huge amount of accountability, personal accountability when you're a coach. So it's really hard to ask your clients to continually go outside their comfort zone. And then you're like, yeah, I don't want to work out today. So there's like a hidden accountability benefit.
Yeah, because you can't tell somebody to do something and then not follow directions on your own.
You can only do it so much before you start to feel really like a fraud. So
yeah. I will say one other thing that was surprising, and before I say that, I think golf therapists might be something, because like I've never been around a sport that is like so frustrating.
Yeah,
like
I have to connect you with the other clients, I think.
Yeah,
but apparently golf is like an amazing analogy for life and the challenges of business.
Yeah,
and it's a very mental game.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot there. One thing that when we started working together, I hired you as an exec coach. But what I've realized is, you've played several roles of like therapist. I know it's not by the book or whatever, but like therapist, marriage coach, life coach, cheerleader, kind of all of the above. But do you find that is common with your clients and relationships?
Yeah, absolutely. I've never. So people will come to me with a particular area, like pain points, things in their life that either aren't working or some place that they want to get to that they just can't quite seem to get there. But honestly, people are usually coming with pain points, like this is not working.
Yeah.
So they come with very clear areas, but I would say it's very rare that we just stay in one area, because we're all connected. All the areas of our life are connected, and a lot of times the thing that we're doing in that pain area that's not working, we might be doing it in other areas too. So so one question, you've probably heard me ask this, like, well, where else is that happening? Or where else have you noticed that? And it helps to get those observations.
Yeah, and that's been really helpful for me, because it's not just like make the business run better. I feel like you're more like make me run better as a whole, and like at home, at work, family, business, all the above. Yeah. So I think that was really surprising, really, really a beautiful thing.
Well, because you're a whole person, right?
Yeah.
You're not just X.
Yeah,
right?
You're not in just one seat, one box all the time, where you can fix it here and then it just fixes everywhere. So I've really appreciated that. What advice would you give a business owner or somebody who's maybe starting out, maybe they're plateauing, maybe they feel lost? Like, what advice would you give somebody who's considering coaching or has never had a coach before?
That's a great question. I would say a few things. So look for somebody who came from an ICF accredited training program at the least. So the International Coach Federation, they're the governing body of coaching. So unfortunately, because the industry is still somewhat new, there are a lot of different, get coach training, $49.99 this weekend, 2 days.
Yeah, the Instagram ads.
Yes. So I would look for at least someone who went to a training that was ICF credentialed, and then I would make a list of the qualities that conditions of satisfaction,
right.
like what we talked about. Like, what are you looking for? who does this person need to be? What, are they demanding? Are they softer? Do you need a balance of the two? But really get clear on what it is that you're looking for, and then go interview a few.
What do you feel makes you stand out? Because I didn't do any of that. I just was referred to you, and I didn't do any. This is the first I'm hearing that you're accredited or certified or whatever. But what would you say is the difference in working with you versus the next coach? What differentiates?
Well, I can't say what differentiates, but I can say what I think my areas are. So I think I'm a very well-trained listener, and so I can really listen and hear what my clients are saying, what they're not saying, and ask questions that really dig deeper. I've been told that I'm compassionate.
Yeah,
and I think that I deliver powerful messages, but in a way that's not intimidating, or not that you're easily intimidated, but
yeah. No, there's a definite approachability where you feel comfortable sharing or going deeper with somebody for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're doing the listening thing, yeah? Like, yes. Okay, keep going.
Can I do a breakout? Can I just say something totally?
Sure. For sure.
Okay, so you didn't ask me about this, but since we're talking about listening, I think my message to the world is be a better listener. If you have somebody in your life who just keeps repeating themselves and they keep saying the same thing over and over again, it's really frustrating to listen to them, you need to listen better. Because an amazing thing happens when people say the same thing over and over again, and you say, oh, really? So what you're saying is that meeting was so frustrating, nobody heard your point of view. When you really get that person, so listening is that's active listening. So I think what I'm understanding about your experience is this: people will move on, and so I think so much of my job is really just getting people where they're at. I think human beings are so under-listened. So I think that is an incredible service that we can give to each other, and I think it's a big part of why people feel they get so much value out of coaching, is because they finally had somebody hear what they were saying.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that, I think, probably answers my last question, which I try to end these podcasts with something deep and philosophical, is 100 years from now, somebody's reading a book about you, or call it your obituary or whatever. What do you want to be remembered
My
for?
obituary in 100 years from now.
I mean, maybe not, but what do you want to be remembered for? And you already used good listener.
Yeah, that's one. I think I'd like to be remembered for believing in people in a way that had them believe in themselves.
Man, that's good. That's inspirational and fires me up at the same time. I think you've accomplished that for sure. So thank you for all the work you've done with me, and
I still want to keep living though.
Level up. Yeah, don't go.
I'm not ready to exit on that.
All right, well, thank you so much for coming in, and it was great to just spend some time with you.
Thanks for the question.
You got it.